welcome to Aging is for Everyone. We're continuing our discussion on Buffalo's urban agriculture. I'm Marian Deutschman, filling in for Laura Mondello. Our guest is Melissa Fratello of Grassroots Gardens, a Buffalo special place, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I know there are lots of good things that happen with urban agriculture. Not only does it add greenery to cities, it can do special things to prevent harmful runoff. I mean, there are a whole lot of things, but you explain for me the benefits that Grassroots Gardens uses to promote agriculture in the community.
Sure. So Grassroots Gardens, I'll give you a little bit of a history of the organization and how we've evolved.
That would be great.
To start focusing in on food policy and food access. Grassroots Gardens was established in 1992, just like Massachusetts Avenue Project.
Oh, really?
Massachusetts Avenue Project actually started as a Grassroots Garden and has grown into what they do today. So they've been a long-standing partner. But when we first began, the organization was established by a gentleman named Milton Zeckhauser. And he saw that, you know, the city was dealing with a lot of blight from vacant lots and organized with neighbors to start creating community gardens.
So you're reclaiming public spaces.
Exactly. Reclaiming public spaces, taking those vacant lots and turning them into opportunities for community revitalization. And while in the beginning, the focus wasn't necessarily primarily on food, Milton always saw that as a benefit. And one of the first gardens was a garden in partnership with the food bank. And they call it Zeke's Garden. So, you know, as time has gone on and we have started to recognize food insecurity as being a major issue in our city, in many neighborhoods throughout our city.
What do you mean by food insecurity?
So food insecurity is when, you know, specific communities and people in specific communities don't have fresh, healthy produce readily accessible and affordable. They're not close to a supermarket. They may be close to a corner store, but that corner store doesn't have a variety of produce available. And if they do, it may not be affordable, or in its freshest state. It may be from across the country and not looking so hot when it gets to that corner store. People may not have transportation. Or the financial means to buy healthy produce.
So they're growing their own?
They're growing their own in community gardens. And we have 75 community gardens throughout the city.
Oh, you do?
In just about every corner of the city. The only pocket where we don't really have many community gardens is in North Buffalo, but in every other area of the city, we have community gardens.
Who works those?
So Grassroots Gardens facilitates the process. We offer access to the land through a lease agreement with the property owner, whether that property owner be the city of Buffalo or a private owner, and we insure the property so that the gardeners are free to work there without concerns about liability. But we empower the gardener to take control of their garden. They really own their garden. They plan their garden. They choose what they want to grow, so they can grow culturally appropriate foods. You know, if there are certain items that they would cook with in their culture, they're able to grow that. Grassroots Gardens doesn't dictate what they do.
So out on the west side, where you have a lot of refugee immigrant populations, they could grow what they choose.
And what's so wonderful about that is that the garden acts as a vehicle to connect those cultures for, you know, new refugee populations to sort of reconnect with their homeland, but also to connect with others across cultures through food. And it's really exciting. We have a garden at Lafayette High School that has involvement. There are a lot of refugee students at that high school. And they're able to do that, you know, through the garden. They're able to connect with their culture and share their culture with others, and it's really exciting.
Now, there are problems sometimes in gardens where the soil itself is not conducive to producing edible products. You could
Absolutely.
put flowers in there, but maybe
Absolutely.
not. So what do you do?
We encourage, actually we require all of our community gardeners to grow their food in raised beds. And we also have workshops. We teach them how to build the beds themselves. Grassroots Gardens will provide the materials for the raised beds. We have workshops on composting, on square foot gardening, so they can make the most of that raised bed space. We actually did we found out through the city had used some interns to do a study of all of our gardens in the Black Rock Riverside neighborhood to see exactly how much produce they were growing in their raised beds.
Yeah.
And in their 4 gardens, 3 of them which are food producing, they produced over 600 pounds of produce that was shared among community residents. And it really is just amazing to see the impact.
So how do you collect the produce? How do people apply first to get this space?
So the process is that community groups is completely community driven. So the name Grassroots Gardens really is appropriate.
Right.
The community comes to us and says, you know, we have this vacant lot nearby and we really want to turn it into a garden. And we do have an application process that they would go through. That's in the early spring. The application is due in March. And in that application, they need to show us that they have the appropriate amount of manpower. You know, gardens are a great idea, but if you don't have enough people behind it, it's really too much for one person to take on. And we really want to see a minimum of 5 people involved in the garden on a regular basis.
So the
a lot of them establish work schedules. So a weekly work schedule where...
So you prepare them to do all of that.
Absolutely.
So the follow through is there.
Yes.
And the planting is done. I mean, do you monitor what they do then? Or?
They provide a plan to us, and we'll weigh in if we see that there's something that they want to plant that maybe won't grow in our zone. We'll let them know and offer them some substitutes. But we'll provide seeds, seedlings, soil, mulch, compost, all of the materials that they need to start up the garden. But they need to have the manpower and the plan, and we also need to make sure that that property is suitable in terms of, you know, striking up an agreement with the landowner.
And how do you deal with the fact that they might not get enough water or enough sunlight or too much?
We look at that in the application process as well. Primarily, our water source is from fire hydrants. So the city of Buffalo has offered us access to water through the fire hydrants. We get a special hydrant key and a hydrant permit from the fire department, and our lead gardeners hook right up to the fire hydrant. Once in a while they have a neighbor that might be extra generous and will offer a water source, but primarily they use the hydrants. So we do look at the lot to see where the closest hydrant is.
We're adding greenery to the cities, you're increasing shading, you're giving produce to people who might not otherwise be able to get it.
And connecting kids with food, which is so important.
They have to know where it comes from.
They know where it comes from, and they're so excited about it. We have 6 school gardens now, and we're really focusing on growing that number. There's a lot of interest throughout the school district.
So thank you, Melissa, for educating us on the benefits of community gardens. This has been reclaimed public spaces. So we'll be right back with the next segment of Aging is for Everyone.